at UMI. UMI are the delivery partner for Manchester Airport Group, helping to organise this fantastic event. I'm going to just have a very quick introduction, and then I'm going to hand you over to our first speaker. We've got a couple of speakers today. We've got Andy Hayes, who's Head of Procurement at Stansted Airport. Andy's going to talk to you about working with Stansted Airport, and there's going to be some really important information in there, so please make sure you take notes. And then we're going to have Suzanne McCreedy, who's Chief Commercial Officer at UMI, and she's going to be running a session on winning bids and tenders, which is going to be really helpful for any of you businesses who might be a bit new to tendering and are preparing for your trip to Stansted Meet the Buyers. Following their presentations, I'll be going through what Meet the Buyers is for anyone who's never been before, what to expect, and some top tips on getting the most out of the event. Just a few bits of information before we get started. There is a live Q&A and discussion forum button across the bottom of your screen. Please use these. The discussion forum is to chat with other guests, but also to ask any questions. The live Q&A is, as it says, it's a question and answer portal. Any questions you put in the Q&A or in the discussion forum, I will pick up with the team as they finish their session. So once Andy's finished his presentation, we'll come on. I'll ask him any questions that you guys have submitted. So without any further ado, I'm going to pass over to Andy Hayes, who's Head of Procurement at Stansted Airport.
Thanks very much, Paul. Welcome everybody to this webinar. Thank you for attending. So I can go to my slides, Paul, if that's okay. So I can't see them, Paul. Okay. Go to the next slide. So just a very quick introduction just about me. So my name's Andy Hayes. I'm the Head of Procurement for Airport Services. I work in the group procurement team, but I'm based at Stansted. I've worked for MAG for about 10 years in the procurement team. For anybody who didn't know, Stansted Airport are part of a wider group. So the Manchester, we are known as MAG, and we also own Manchester and East Midlands airports. Within the MAG procurement team, we are very category focused. So my category is airport services. We also have teams that look after IT and business services, asset and maintenance, utilities, and then capital projects. So there's 5 main category areas, and we have a head of procurement that look after each of those categories. My category, we tend to focus on contracts on air traffic control, facilities management, police contracts, PRM, so that's passenger reduced mobility, car park busing, our fuel farms, and then we also look after some commercial contracts. So these are concessions that you'll see in the airport for taxis, for car hire, foreign exchange, and then we've also got concessions for onward travel. So these are coach services into London. Because I'm based at Stansted, we have a very small team here of 4 people. I am the local business partner, procurement business partner to Stansted, and I support the leadership team at Stansted on procurement issues. Just to give you an idea of the size of MAG, so collectively our airports, we serve over 65 million passengers and handle 750,000 tonnes of freight each year. Next slide, please, Paul. So, an overview of Stansted. So our financial year is April to March. So for April 23 through to March 24, we served 29 million passengers, and that made us the 3rd busiest airport in London and the 4th busiest in the UK. The 3rd busiest in the UK would have been Manchester, so that's obviously our sister airport. We do have a bit of friendly rivalry between the 2 airports. We are sort of neck and neck around the 30 million mark this year. To say it's a healthy little battle between the 2 airports. At Stansted, we look after, or we fly to 200 destinations across 40 countries. We are a market leader for short haul travel, and we serve the more scheduled connections to Europe than any other UK airport. We've also got our double daily to Dubai, which allows passengers access to the airline's global network of over 150 destinations. Effectively, you can fly to Australia from Stansted, not direct, but obviously through Emirates network, you can do. We've also opened this year the Emirates Lounge. This is our first airline lounge on site. Yeah, we also are a major cargo hub. We ship goods worldwide to the Far East and the US. Again, one thing that probably people don't recognise is that we have the highest public transport use of any airport in the UK, which is 50%. So as part of our planning applications, our Section 106, we are required to have 50% of our passengers using public transport. So that's train, bus, and coach. And we are probably one of probably the highest in Europe, one of the best in Europe. In terms of the size of the airport, we have 12,000 employees working across 200 companies, and we are the largest single employer in the east of England. And just another note on sort of sustainability, I will cover it later on in the presentation. So we have an ambitious target to be net zero by 2038. So that's 12 years ahead of the national target. So next slide, please, Paul. So obviously the Meet the Buyer event, this is what we're here to talk about. It's going to be held at the Radisson Blu at the end of this month on the 28th. And again, this is an obligation on MAG to sort of do this or have this event. We've run it for a number of years. It's been very, very successful. And we believe it obviously helps buyers and suppliers in the local area to meet. So it's giving you the opportunity, or small business the opportunity, to come and talk to local buyers at the airport and see about doing business with each other. We've generated, I think, over the last 12 years, somewhere in the region of £30 million worth of contracts. So last year, I think, it's still to be verified, but we're looking at about 1.5 million of business between airport buyers and supplier attendees. Yeah, next slide, please, Paul. You may have heard this in the news. It was certainly broadcast a few weeks ago. I think an event where Keir Starmer was announcing, various things that are happening in the UK. So we are going to be going through a very large transformation program. We call it StanTP, and it's a £1.1 billion investment program into Stansted. So the centrepiece of which, you see a diagram there of the terminal. We are looking at extending the terminal at the back of the terminal by sort of circa 30%. So if you sort of have been to Stansted, you can sort of look at, we've got what we call trees, and we call them trees or bays. We are looking to expand 3 bays out the back, and it's going right the way across the building. What that will see is it will see our track transit system, our train system being retired, and then we'll be moving to Skylinks out to the terminals. What this will allow us to do is to move from our current passenger numbers of 30 million up to 43 million passengers. And our target is to hit that number by 2033, 2034. We believe that's then going to create another 5,000 jobs across the airport and add another 2 billion of economic contribution to the UK. This transformation program has already kick-started. So phase 1 is we are building a new domestic arrival building to the east of the terminal. So if you know where Stansted is, there's a big piece of land between the terminal and the Radisson. There's building work going on there to build this arrivals building. And that is like the first phase of the transformation program. We need to remove the current domestic arrivals area, which is to the west of the building, to allow us then to start developing the security area and moving the security area and the train system and starting to build the Skylinks. The next slide, please, Paul. So just understanding procurement at MAG, it's just a table there of our annual spend. So again, this is April 23 to March 24. Our spend across goods, works and services is around 670 million. And I've divided that by the categories there. So you can see my category, airport services, my spend that I look after is about £145 million a year. So to give you a little bit of detail as to how we tender for or sign contracts, with suppliers, we are regulated under the utility procurement regulations. It's very, very similar to public procurement. We can't just award contracts out to bidders for contracts over a certain value. We have to go through a regulated procurement process. One of these ways is by issuing what we call a contract notice, and we have to publish those contract notices in sort of public areas. So one of the areas that we use is Find a Tender, and the website is there. Anybody can sign up to that website. It's free to join. And what will happen is if we put a contract notice out there for a particular service or some particular goods, and you're signed up to those goods or services within Find a Tender, you will get an alert that says MAG are coming out to tender for those goods and services. So when you log into and go into the website and register, there's a whole list of goods, services, and works that you can sign up to. So, if you were, say, a stationery company, for example, there is a line for stationery. You click on that, and not only will you get contract notices relating to MAG, but also other organisations using that facility. Another way of signing contracts is we use our existing frameworks and existing preferred supplier lists. So these for values that could be several million. So we've run tenders for those framework agreements, and those frameworks just sit there dormant until we want to contract against those, and then we'll go out to the companies that are signed up to those frameworks, and then do a very quick mini tender against those to award the business. A third way of signing contracts is that we use the Crown Commercial Services frameworks. Because of our public ownership, we are allowed to use those contracts. So these are tenders and contracts that have been organised through governmental procurement organisations. And so through our ownership, we can piggyback on those. If you need any more information about this, if you go onto our website, www.magairports.com, there is a procurement tab within there that gives you all the information as to how we go out to market. Thanks, Paul. Next slide. So sort of things to think about, if you are working at MAG, either directly with us or through one of our tier 1 suppliers. There are certain things, as you probably expect. It is a sort of a regulated area being on an airport. So you have a landside area and obviously an airside area. So things you'll need to think about is security passes. So staff working on airport will require an airport pass. And if they are working airside, they'll obviously need an airside pass. And there are sort of strict rules and a process that staff have to go through before they can obtain an airside pass. Obviously, if you're carrying out works on site, then you'll need to apply for permits to work. And if you're driving vehicles airside, there are airside licenses, driving licenses and permits that you need to have. So the vehicle will need a permit as well. So there's also different things that you need to think about if you're wanting to sign contracts with MAG. Yeah, next slide, please. So we are going through our own transformation. I spoke about Stansted's transformation with the building of the new terminal. We're also going through a transformation within our own procurement team. So we are sort of trying to get into more of the 21st century in terms of how we do procurement. a lot of our processes and our systems are very, very paper-based, and we use SAP Ariba as our ERP system, and we're developing, with SAP or utilising their procurement system. So we're wanting to do more things electronically. So we will be doing our sourcing through SAP Ariba in the future. All of our contracts will sit on SAP Ariba, and what that will allow us to do is to really work alongside our suppliers. And the sort of benefits that suppliers will see is obviously going through an electronic sourcing event. We'll be able to exchange transactional data. So POs will be able to come through the system. Invoices will be able to be sent through SAP Ariba. And it will give the suppliers a more of an open view as to where their invoices are within the system, and potentially the payments as well. So you'll receive notifications when your invoice has been received, it's been processed, and when it will be paid. You can also communicate directly with MAG Procurement through the system. But again, as suppliers, you'll probably know that trying to contact suppliers or contact customers and contact customers' finance teams around payment is very, very difficult. Through this system, you'll be able to talk directly through to procurement teams and finance teams. Another thing that you'll be able to manage your own data in the system and keep that up to date. So things like your addresses, bank details, and contact details. So again, it alleviates any issues around POs being sent and invoices being sent and having that communication backwards and forwards. Also, it will help in terms of the sort of business-to-business relationship. So contracts will be sent to you via the system. Any certifications that we're asked for, insurance documents, all to do with our sourcing events, everything will be electronic and sent through the system. Yeah, next slide, please, Paul. Touched upon it earlier, around sustainability. It's obviously a sort of a key pillar, for procurement, but also for the business. And so we have partnered with a company called EcoVadis, and they are going to support us and sort of work with our preferred suppliers to deliver ethical and sustainable procurement, and helping us, and probably helping yourselves as well, to meet your corporate social and responsibility goals. So what we need to do, so we are asking any supplier that works with MAG to link in with EcoVadis, and they will assess a broad range of performance areas within your business. So things like environmental, labour and human rights, ethics, and sustainable procurement. So once you contact EcoVadis and sign up, there'll be various questionnaires that suppliers will have to fill in, and then data will have to be transferred between the supplier and EcoVadis. And at the end of the process, you'll be provided with a score against the 4 criteria above. And EcoVadis will work alongside you and provide you with guidance on the strengths and improvement areas. If, for instance, we've decided to work with you and your EcoVadis scores are probably not within the bands that we would expect, it's not to mean that we wouldn't work with you. What we would want to do is work with you and EcoVadis on improvement areas and how you can develop better numbers across those 4 areas. Again, if you want to find out more information around EcoVadis and our sort of sustainability targets, it's all within our website. Okay, next slide, please, Paul. Also on our website is we have a MAG supplier code. This can be downloaded from the website, and it really just sets out our expectations of not only ourselves, but all those that work with us. So we expect supplier performance and standards of behaviours to be in line with this code, and we expect our suppliers to act in the manner that upholds our reputation, and that's whether you're delivering goods, services, or works on behalf of MAG. And the purpose of the code is really just to formally communicate those requirements and expectations to suppliers. It's always part of our tender documents that we send out. They'll expect people to sign up to, when they're making a proposal to MAG. Okay, next slide, please, Paul. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. So if there's any questions.
So, Andy, thanks for that. That was great. There are a few questions on the Q&A, so I'll just read through them. Okay. And I've got a few of my own as well, actually. But Harry Muir has asked, is there a cost to EcoVadis?
I think there is. I don't know off the top of my head what it is. I think it is a one-off cost. It's not like an annual cost. But there is. I mean, I want to say it's less than £1,000. But as I said, it's not something that's just unique to MAG. I think it's something that a lot of companies now, a lot of bigger companies are looking for suppliers to sign up to. We want to sort of see, I suppose, your sustainability credentials and also what you're doing to develop those credentials over time. So yes, I think there is a cost, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, great. And I mean, I don't know if you know this, but if people are already signed up to EcoVadis through other contracts that they're delivering for other people, will that be fine, or will they need to sign up separately? For
That's fine. Yeah. As I said, it's not unique to MAG. Okay. So you sign up once, and you can use that within any tender. You could use it with MAG. You could use it for any company that you're presenting to, even if they don't ask, for an EcoVadis score. I think it's something that you can present as a supplier to customers and say, well, look, this is what we're doing on sustainability.
Yeah, great. Paul Dyke has asked, will signage and wayfinding be direct through MAG, or will it be through a main contractor?
I would expect it to go through one of our main contractors.
Yeah.
I know it's something that is being looked at Stansted, and probably across the whole of MAG. Obviously, going through a big transformation program, that's something that we all need to look at some stage. But I would expect it to go through one of our tier 1 suppliers.
Yeah, great. Keith Phillips has asked whether the changes to your procurement will everything be in line with the new Procurement Act that's coming in?
Yes, obviously we're aware that it's coming in. I think we were told it was coming in, I think sort of February time. Yeah. I think it's been delayed a little bit, but yes, we have to follow that.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. And a question from Darren, who asks, with works already started on phase 1, are all the opportunities now covered for these works? And how does that affect subsequent phases?
So phase 1, I would say yes. So that the package has been tendered, and I would say that the works are contracted. I know there are a number of phases afterwards. I think there's 4, so 2, 3, and 4 have still got to go out to tender. For those of the attendees today, if you are attending the Meet the Buyer event, there will be a presentation from a gentleman called Chris Turton, who's leading the transformation program. He is doing a presentation solely around what we're doing here at Stansted. I think he can give you more indications around when those phases will be let. The other thing is that a lot of our tier 1 providers will be in the room, so their buyers will be in the room. So, for small to medium enterprises, I think it's a great opportunity to meet our tier 1 providers, and I'm sure that those are the sort of companies that will be bidding, for those phases.
Yeah, great. And a question from Harry again, asking specifically, do you have any framework agreements for emergency generators?
We don't. Is this the purchase of generators or the hire?
I don't know. I mean, if you are
Well,
interested, you could let us know whether it's purchase.
yeah, I don't think we have a specific framework for that.
Okay.
I would think, if we were buying, one generator, we would probably come out to market, for that. It really depends on the value as well. So with the utility regulations, the threshold that we have to, or the value, the threshold we have to tender at, is about £340,000, and that's the whole value of the contract. So it could, if we signed a 5-year contract at £100,000 a year, that's £500,000. We need to tender that under procurement regulations. If the value of the contract, just say a generator is worth 200,000 and we're just wanting one, then we don't necessarily have to follow the regulations. We can go out to market and select some suppliers that provide generators, and then just do a very quick tender to do something like that. I know over COVID and over the last few years, we have been replacing some generators. So I would think we don't tend to come out and buy one. We'll buy several, so they will be tendered.
Okay, great. Question from David Denzelman. Who is the main tier 1 provider that's working on phase 1?
That's a company called FADO, FADO.
Great.
I think that they are at the event, aren't they? Meet the buyer events.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes, yeah, they are. Yeah, and we'll go through who the buyers are in a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, I think that they're the sort of company that will be bidding on the other phases as well. So that they'll be one of their tier 1s that will be at the Meet the Buyer event.
Yeah, brilliant. More questions coming in. This is from Cully. If they've previously been a supplier to MAG, do they have to go through procurement processes, or will they be able to look at historic services provided and have discussions with the procurement team?
I suppose it really depends on how long ago we've done the business. We've had the business with a supplier. We tend to do a bit of a refresh on our supplier list. If we haven't tended to use a supplier for probably more than 12 months, we do tend to sort of park them. It really depends on the sort of the service or the goods that are being delivered. I think if a company's already in the system, we can switch them on quite quickly. What we would expect is the supplier to sort of go through our sign-up process within SAP Ariba. So, previously, we've been sending POs via email and invoices coming in via email. Obviously, with our new SAP Ariba system, we want everybody really to be signing up to SAP Ariba. So that communication channel it's all done through Ariba. And obviously then payments and that sort of thing and communication is done through that. And again, I suppose based on the value of the contracts, signing up to EcoVadis as well.
Yeah, great. Muldine has asked a question that I think I can answer this one. It says, they're attending Meet the Buyers as a small organisation. Is any support available to help prepare? So Muldine, after this Q&A with Andy, you'll hear from Suzanne McCreedy. She's going to give some really helpful advice on how to tender and bid for contracts. So that'll really help you post-event. And then I'll be giving some hints and tips on the best way to prepare for the event on the day. So that is yet to come this morning. So thank you for that question. More questions coming in, Andy. We've got if phase 1 tender is now closed, will there be future opportunities for ground investigations and monitoring?
I'm sure under phase 2, 3, and 4, there'll be sort of similar things. Okay. Obviously, we will need to go out the back of the terminal. There'll be sort of associated buildings going, I suppose, spreading out from the terminal as well. There's a new what we call a bussing gate. That would be that. So I would expect, very similar services to what was in phase 1, in 2, 3, and 4.
Great. A question on, will ductwork packages be handled directly by MAG, or will it go through the tier 1s?
Go through the tier 1s.
Through the tier 1s.
Yeah. I mean, what we tend to do is obviously we're going to design a specification or have a design for the building and a design for, various works, and really everything will be outsourced, to those phase one, tier one bidders. We don't really want to be doing any bits of work, alongside them. So everything will be outsourced to them.
Yeah. Are there any plans for future frameworks for flood lighting structures, radar structures, or telecom structures?
Not that I'm aware of. All I would do is recommend that people sign up to find a tender, register on there, and if there are frameworks, I mean, to me that side of the business will be looked after by my IT procurement colleagues who are based in Manchester, but they will use the same process as us. So if it's we're looking for frameworks for that sort of service, we will come out to tender on find a tender. So you'll see a contract notice. So what I always say to people, and I say to people at the Meet the Buyer event, sign up to find a tender. As it's free. You can put all your details in there, and so that there are hundreds of service lines and product lines where you can actually sign up and say, yes, I'm interested in all of these service lines or goods lines, and as soon as something comes out, contract notice that comes out, for those service lines, you will get an alert. And I say it's not just for MAG, it's for other procurement or organisations, public organisations. I think even private organisations use find a tender.
Great. And someone's asked if there's any products or services that are outside of your procurement category. Are you able to facilitate introductions to other category leads? But I guess that's what Meet the Buyer is for, isn't it? A lot of your team, a lot of the.
It is. Yeah. So yeah, as I said, I've got a small team of 4 here. A number of my colleagues will be attending from Manchester, so we will have IT and business services representatives there, capital representatives, and people from our asset and maintenance team will be there as well. So we won't all be sitting on the desk at one time, but we will be there hovering around a desk. I will be there all day. If people want to come and speak to me and say, can I have an introduction to your asset and maintenance team or your IT team, I'm more than happy to make that connection.
Great. And then I think possibly the final question, will FIDS, I'm not sure what that is, Andy.
Or FIDS.
Yeah, FIDS. Will they be through Manchester IT or part of the main contract?
I would think they will go through MAG IT. So these are, I'm assuming these are, or people are asking around the supply of screens and things like that, so monitors or for want of a better word, I'm sure they're screens. They will probably be through MAG IT.
Yeah. And someone's asked about the slide deck. Are we okay to share slides after the event?
Well, I'm happy for you to send those out. Yeah. There's
Great.
nothing on there that's top secret.
Well, I think that's all the questions from the floor. I mean, I had 1 or 2 quick ones. So the transformation project, how long are you expecting it to take? What's the timelines for all 4 phases?
So we should be finished at March 27. I think that's our projected finish date. But I'm sure, with any sort of building project, and I think what's going to be really interesting is that we need to still run an airport, run the facility while we're doing this. And as you can imagine, we've got we're a 1 terminal site, and we've still got to process passengers, through the terminal, and the extension is at the back of the building, which is where all the passengers are starting to move. So I think it's going to be a really challenging time for us. If we hit the March 27 deadline, I think we'll all be very, very pleased. But I can see it maybe, moving a bit later on. But that's the target anyway. Great. We obviously have, targets in terms of passenger numbers. The indication is that the current terminal building can probably take up to about 32 million passengers. So we're going to hit a ceiling almost, to say that if we don't get this done, then we can't take more passengers on. Our growth is built around the fact that I think we're the only London airport that has capacity. Heathrow has no more capacity, Gatwick doesn't, and Luton doesn't. They don't have any more slots available. Once we've built the extension, we will have a huge amount of capacity, and as I said, we're the only London airport that's got it. So we're really confident that we can get the passenger numbers through the airport, up to 43 million.
Wow, brilliant, great. Well, thanks for that, Andy. That was fantastic. And Andy, you'll be at Stansted Meet the Buyers, I believe.
I will be there. I'll be there all day.
Great.
Looking forward.
I'm sure you'll get a chance to meet everyone. It's a busy day this morning, so hopefully a lot of the people on this webinar will be at the event. But Thank you very much, Andy.
Okay, no problem. Thanks very much.
And then next, I'm going to hand you over to Suzanne McCreedy, who's Chief Commercial Officer here at UMI, and Susie's going to be presenting on winning bids and tenders.
Thanks very much, Paul, and hello everybody. I'm Susie McCreedy, the Chief Commercial Officer at UMI. My role at UMI is looking after everything related to building relationships and partnerships with potential customers, to driving sustainable revenues for the business, and that allows me to work on a range of tenders basically across the public and the private sector. So today's webinar is really about me sharing my insights and expertise based on the role that I do at UMI, as well as the experience that we've got in supporting other businesses to improve access to supply chains and also procurement opportunities. So hopefully today will be quite practical for you in terms of actual experience that I'll be sharing. I'll ask, let's have a look. I'll just start sharing my slides. Oh, there they are there. Brilliant. Perfect. Thank you, Carly. So today what we're going to be going through are processes for improving your chance of securing deals. And this will be applicable to procurement opportunities, but also other sales opportunities, things that you are doing to present yourself to other businesses proactively. So this will be appropriate for proposals and other sales processes, not just necessarily formal procurement examples such as Andy's gone through this morning. We'll also talk through techniques to qualify sales opportunities to help you make sure that you're aligning the delivery of what your organisation can do well to the opportunities that are presented to you, and making sure your value propositions aligned with what those opportunities are. We'll talk a little bit about putting in the groundwork. So there are things you can do well in advance of procurement opportunities to put you in good stead. And then also some top tips, if you like, for strategies on writing really persuasive and compelling bids, and how to differentiate yourself in the marketplace, because it is a busy one. Okay, so if we can just go to the next slide, please, Carly. All right, no problems. I shall share them now. Sorry. Okay. Apologies. Okay, so as Andy mentioned before, normally in some regulated or public procurement processes, there's a particular process that you need to be aware of, which is the life cycle of a tender. So what this diagram explains is pretty much what Andy said. You'll be notified either through some search that you've done online, or through a tender portal such as Find a Tender that Andy mentioned, and you'll be notified of an opportunity. You'll plan and prepare your response to that. You'll start to write your tender response and submit it, and then you'll be waiting for that response to be evaluated by the buyer, who will then select their chosen supplier and award the tender, and then you'll start kind of contract negotiations or contract commencement. But this process can be applied to other opportunities as well as public procurement. And what's really, really important, I think, is putting yourself in really good stead in advance of these opportunities being notified to you, so that you can really get ahead of that planning and preparing stage. Because sometimes in a tender life cycle, the point that you get notified for the tender and then you've got to submit, depending on the value of the tender, that can be a couple of weeks, it could be a month, it could be 6 months. It very much depends on the value that you're bidding in for and what rules are in place for that particular opportunity. So what I want to cover off today is how do you get ahead of that cycle so that you can put yourself in really good stead for when the opportunities are presented to you to quickly qualify them and be able to start putting your response together quicker and faster than other people because you're already ahead of the game and you've got some of that planning done. Okay. So in terms of the techniques to qualify your sales opportunity, once you've looked at the tender portals or you're aware through a framework that you're on or something of that ilk that there is an opportunity that you might be interested in, it's really important that you qualify that opportunity as quickly as possible so that you don't waste any time. You're either basically ruling it in or ruling it out. And what I tend to do is assess 4 areas. Have I got the capability? Has my organisation got the capability to deliver this? Do we have the right skills? Do we have the right experience? What examples have we got that we can actually evidence that we can do this activity and we can do it well? And who can we potentially partner with if we don't have some of those skills? So very much trying to work out really upfront, do we have the capability to respond to this opportunity? We then also need to look at, have we got the capacity? Have we got the resources to actually put a good bid forward? Do we have the resources to actually deliver the work that's required? What will the delivery model look like for that? Who would need to be involved in delivering this work? Have we got the right skills in the right place? Have we got the time to be able to do this work well? And can we deliver it within the budget? So right up front, I would be putting some work into understanding what my delivery model is going to look like, what resources and tools I'm going to need to deliver this activity, and therefore applying that into what my initial budget might look like in terms of resources, whether that be people resources or other costs. And then also have a look at what the risks and the pain points might be with reference to delivery of the project. So are there particular timelines that are quite concerning that you might not be able to achieve? Or have you got something else going on within your organisation from a delivery perspective that's going to clash with the activity? So very much once you know that you've got the capability to do it, you're looking at your capacity and whether or not you're going to be able to respond to this opportunity. I then move on to looking at whether or not we've got the competitive edge against the other potential people that will be bidding in for this work. So who else is likely to bid? Does the client know us? Are they familiar with us? Do they trust us? Have we got a relationship with them? Are there any hints within the specification that I can read to get a sense for the sorts of organisation that they're wanting to work with? If they're using particular language, such as local or particular regions, and you're not based in that region, then it might be helpful to understand that actually they're looking for a local supplier. Also, whether or not there's an incumbent. So this is somebody that's already delivering that activity and they're just coming to the end of their contract cycle and the tender opportunity is out there to try and get ahead of the game to make sure there's no gaps in service. If there is an incumbent, understand a little bit about them, whether or not you're going to be able to compete and deliver services as good or better than the incumbent, because that will really give you a sense of whether or not you feel you're going to be competitive. As well as whether or not you think generally your service offering or your product offering is good or better than other competitors in terms of fit for the specification that's been provided with the tender. Also have a think about what you bring as an organisation with your team. What's different or special about the way that you deliver things or the way that you operate? That's really, really important to try and understand how you might do something differently or better than a potential competitor. And also think about why they would choose you. Basic SWOT analysis on your value proposition. What are the 1 or 2 key things that I really, really want to get across in this tender response that is going to make the customer understand what it's going to be like to work with me versus maybe work with a competitor? So it's really important that you kind of get that ethos across in your response in terms of why they should choose you. And what I tend to do is focus on 1 or 2 main areas. And once I sort of home them down for my bid, what I'll do is I'll make sure my response in each of the questions relays back to the 1 or 2 kind of key messages, or the 2 or 3 kind of competitive edge points that I want to get across, and make sure that story is clear throughout my entire response to all of the questions, so that you're reiterating all the time why it is that they should choose you from a procurement perspective. And then finally, when you're assessing your opportunities from a qualification perspective, it's really important to look at strategic fit. Is the opportunity aligned with your business plan and what it is you're looking to achieve from the work that you're doing, in terms of your profit margins, for example, that you've got in your plan? Is it going to align with other products and services that you've got? Can you leverage in other activities that you're already delivering, or align them with a similar product line? Basically, you're trying to assess here whether or not this is going to take you off a bit of a rabbit hole, and it's gravy today as opposed to tomorrow, and actually it's an opportunity that might be good for you, but it's not necessarily in the direction that your organization's wanting to head. So it's really important to have a think about that from a strategic perspective. Am I just bidding for this work because I know I can do it, and I potentially might win some revenue, or is it actually aligned to what your broader goals are of your business, in terms of the journey that you're on, and the sorts of services and products that you want to align your activity to? And ultimately, what you're wanting to assess is whether or not this opportunity is going to help drive the right revenue streams for you and the right profit margins. If the opportunity doesn't look attractive to you from a budgetary perspective or profit perspective, and it's going to end up in the long run not being aligned to what you need, don't put the energy into trying to win the work in the first place, because you'll just be upset with yourself later down the line that you've got a contract that you're struggling to deliver, or doesn't meet the needs of the businesses in the long term. A lot of the time, it's important to understand the budgets that are available within the specifications, and I'll come on to talk about the terms and conditions in a moment. But understanding things like that, to understand whether or not it's aligned to the types of revenues that you want to attract in your business, is really important. Things like penalty clauses or late delay clauses and things like that, it's important to understand what those are. And then also, do we have an established supply chain or customer base for this activity? If you don't, and you're going to have to build some of those things or bring in particular expertise to deliver this, and it doesn't fit within the timeline, again, that might be something you need to think about from a strategic perspective, as well as any sort of broader opportunities or benefits that might be aligned to what it is that you're trying to achieve. So they're the sort of 4 main areas that I would qualify the sales opportunity against before I rush in to starting to put pen to paper. It's really important to do that up front, so you can really understand whether or not you're actually spending time on the right types of opportunities. And what I tend to do is put together a basic scoring methodology for each of those 4 areas, give it a score of 1 to 4 based on a range of criteria, and then I can assess whether or not I think this opportunity scores 10 or more, for example, and therefore it's quite a good opportunity, or whether it scores 12 or more and therefore it's a really good opportunity. And that might just help you refine, especially when you're in things like the find attender portals and others, and there's lots of opportunities coming through. Just doing this very quick scoring methodology based on your capacity, your strategic fit, competitive advantage, etc., will allow you to understand whether or not you're actually focusing on the right opportunities. And once you've made a decision, rule it in or rule it out. Now, what I would say on this is, once you have made a decision, that doesn't mean to say you can't change your mind, because what I tend to do is I'll register for an opportunity, and I'll be working through my scoring methodology, and I'll be thinking, right, this one might not be right for us. But what I'll do is I'll make sure that I'm asking some clarification questions through the process, and then also listening out for the responses that are coming back from other bidders who have also asked clarification questions, because sometimes the responses to those clarifications can actually change my mind based on what it is the organisations come back with. So keep open-minded, but don't spend any time actually working on your response until you've made that decision. And like I say, keep an eye on the Q&As that come back if you have registered interest, so that you can sense check whether or not it changes any of the parameters that you've scored the opportunity against. So in terms of the sort of process for improving your chances of winning, I mentioned there around the sort of budget. What you can do in advance is really get a hold on your organisation's resources, the costs of those things, and how you would build up your budget planning. And you can put these templates in place well in advance of opportunities coming out, so they're there to be used. What are your day rates? What are your fixed costs? What are your overheads? What margins are you wanting to recover? And put together a template that enables you to make sure that you can really quickly build a budget and also understand your resource planning that sits alongside that. So have some templates that you can use within your organisation that are very specific to your organisation, that you can use really quickly when a specification comes out. You can start to build: what resources do I need? How much is that going to cost me? What is the budget for this opportunity? And does everything align? Because the first and foremost is getting that budget right will really stand you in good stead for understanding the delivery model and how you're going to actually build the story of your responses. If you dive straight into the bid and start answering their questions without having a clear methodology of how you're going to deliver this and what resources and team members are required to do that, you're not going to be able to tell a really good story. So start with the basics of building out the model and building out the budget and the resource models first, and then you can start applying those in your responses. The other thing that I do is we've got what I call a tender library, which is basically just some very basic stock answers to particular questions that I know are going to be asked in tenders. Normally things along the lines of who my delivery team are going to be, what I think the risks might be for this particular opportunity. So I've got some example risk logs, I've got some organograms of the team members and some of their biographies, sort of mini CVs already there developed so that I can use those. So getting together some of that basic information enables you to very quickly be able to respond to some of the questions without having to start from scratch to build up these things. Okay. The other thing is to try and make sure you've got your policies in place and that they're up to date. A lot of the time on some of the public procurement opportunities or the regulated ones, you'll have to supply copies potentially of policies. And having them up to date and signed, ready to be able to attach as annexes and those sorts of things is important. So make sure you've got your policies in place. Um, and then think about things like project planning, how you're going to approach writing your bid, and put some methodologies well in place well in advance so people are really clear of what their responsibilities are going to be. You'll normally have an individual who is the main person responsible for making sure that the bid's put in. If you're a very, very small business, it's probably going to be you. But that doesn't mean to say that you can't use skills of other people around you. So if you do have somebody who supports you from a finance perspective or even an accountant, it might be helpful to try and work with them in advance to understand how you might build financial models to respond to these types of things. And then also, if you're working with, say, delivery teams, involve those individuals in the process so that when you're developing your model, you can actually talk really clearly about what it is, the work that is going to be done and how it's going to be delivered. Don't sit in kind of an ivory tower assuming that you're going to be able to describe exactly how this work's going to be done in your tender response. It's really important to involve the people who are going to be delivering the activity so that you can make sure you can get across the nuances and the ins and outs of how this is going to be done, and you can therefore build real trust in your response. When the procurement team read it, they're really, really clear about what it is you're going to do for them. It's not just a bit of fluff, it's an actual response that is going to be able to be believable and be trusted in. Also, have your team trained on some of these processes so that they can support you with this. I've got a couple of individuals within my team who I know I'll frequently call upon to support me in writing bid responses. So I'll make sure they're aware of what these things are in advance and that they understand what's required so that they can support me in the process. We also use a CRM to kind of track opportunities, but if you don't have a client management system to do that, you can use a very basic diary outlook or a spreadsheet or something of that ilk, because it's really important to make sure in the project management of this, you stick to the deadlines and the timelines that are provided within the specification for things like when the clarifications close, when you have to have responded by and uploaded your documents, when the notification of who's going to have won the contract, example. So you can track all of those things. Even if you decide not to bid for a piece of work, you can still track things like the award notices to understand who won that bit of work, because that might help you understand the competitors or other potential customers that you might work with in the future. And there was a few questions before around the sort of different tiers of suppliers. If you haven't got access to the supply chain, it's really helpful to track those opportunities to understand who is winning, the tier one contracts, and who the tier one contractors are awarding contracts to, because that will help build out your network of the businesses that you need to go and talk to and try and enter that supply chain. It doesn't have to happen through the formal procurement opportunity. It can happen further down the tier, and it might be that there are some areas of need that they've got that you're not aware of, that you can help supply into. So really use the opportunity to track those opportunities and spend the time to work through them, and not just rule them out once you've decided you're not going to bid. The other thing I do to prepare in advance is try and make sure I've got some really nice pictures and models in a draft that I can quickly amend if I need to, because sometimes within the word count, you're very, very limited to what you can actually say in some of these responses. So having everybody says a picture paints 1,000 words, and it's absolutely true. So if you can have a really nice, simple delivery model in a diagram that describes how you deliver something, your methodologies, maybe the accreditations that you've got, or your methodologies for project management or anything like that. If you can have some little model diagrams subject to the procurement opportunity allowing you to use pictures or tables, I always ask that question. If it's not clear, it really does allow you to get across a lot in a response without necessarily having to use the 500 word count, for example, that you've got. So if you can use imagery and models, have them prepared in advance, so when opportunities do come out, you can simply slot them in and amend them quickly if you need to. So in terms of what to do when you are actually writing your bid and proposal, and I'm conscious of time, so I have got a slide as well that talks about what not to do, but it's pretty much a reversal of what to do. So I'll not go through that one in too much detail, but certainly we'll be sending the slides out afterwards, so we can go through that if you need to separately. So on reviewing the spec, make sure you're clear what it is that they're asking for. Don't assume. If you're unsure, ask a question. It's 9 times out of 10, you're able to ask the procuring team for clarification about something. So don't just sit there second guessing. If you're really not clear what it is that they're asking for, just ask a question. But do be mindful that your responses will be shared with other potential bidders. In an open procurement process, that's quite normal. So have a think about how you phrase it. Don't give anything away if you don't feel you need to, because it might be that you understand it and you're just actually sharing your insights with the other competitors. So just be careful in how you ask questions and being really clear that it's appropriate. Or mentioned about being clear on what the allocated budget is. Sometimes they don't tell you what the budget is, but if they don't, there's no harm in asking. They might not tell you, they might expect you to build up a response based on what you envisage needs delivering and the way that you would deliver it, and build a budget from scratch. Other times they'll tell you what that is. Don't ignore the budget if it is there, because also if you go above the budget, it might be that you're ruled out on a pass-fail question. So be really, really clear on that. Also look at what the scoring methodology is. Be clear about what percentage of the scores are going to be allocated to the price versus the quality response. So this is really helpful to understand how price sensitive a piece of work might be. And that will help you in terms of understanding how you're going to structure your response from a financial perspective, or whether or not you're actually going to put your eggs in the basket of, I'm going to put a really strong quality response forward. I can maybe afford to be a little bit less competitive on price. So just look at the percentages. If it's something like 90% quality and 10% price, you know it's not going to be price sensitive. But if it's 50% quality and 50% price, you know it is going to be quite price sensitive. So that will help you. And normally they give you some really good methodology for how the scores are going to be achieved. So understand what those words are, what is it saying to get an excellent score I need to write in my response? And make sure when you've written all your responses, you go back to the scoring methodologies and work out whether or not you've done everything that it says that you need to do to be able to score highly. Remember also to answer the questions, because a lot of the time we'll get really excited that we want to tell them all about how great we are and try and do the whole sales pitch in the bid. If it doesn't answer the question and you've spent 200 words out of your 500 words putting a lot of fluff or waffle in about how great the organization is and how excited you are about the opportunity, but don't actually answer the question, you've done yourself a bit of an injustice there. So there is a balance to be scored from making sure you put yourself in a really good light and you structure your answer and response in such a way that it's really compelling for the person that's reading it to want to work with you, but also you must answer the question. Okay. Review all of the documentation before you start putting your pen to paper. A lot of the time, I've learned this from practice. We've spent quite a lot of time working on a bid. We've put all the models together and we've started writing the questions. And then somebody who's really, really good at detail will read the terms and conditions and say, actually, this one's not for us because there's some penalty clauses in, or actually the payment terms are such that actually we're going to have to cash flow this opportunity for 6 months before we recover any costs, or it's so heavily performance related that it makes it a risk because of delivery partners that we're working with, for example. So just understand the terms and conditions, have a look at what your payment terms are going to be, understand whether or not it's practical for your size of organization to work within those payment terms, and make sure you understand the contract and any of the clauses that are in that before you start writing, because what you don't want to do is waste your time, get to reviewing the T's and C's and think, actually, this one's not for us. You can also research your customer. So Andy mentioned before information that's on the MAG website around what it's like to work with them and what their sort of standards and procurement processes and things are. So with each opportunity, make sure you do a bit of research on the customer and the opportunity itself. You can normally find out a little bit of information just from Google, depending on what the opportunity is. You know, there's lots of information online from Manchester Airport Group around Stansted's transformation project. So have a look at some of the blog posts on the website and other things to make sure you're in the best position possible. And also be aware of the timings to make sure you've got enough time to submit. Don't leave it if you think, oh, I've got a month to respond to this. Don't wait until week 3 to start building your response, because it does take time and it does take refinement. So make sure you right up front when you're reviewing your spec, you're starting to plot out that timeline for how you're going to respond to it. The operational models we've kind of covered off, but I normally have a finance model, a resourcing model, and a delivery model. So I can understand exactly how much it's going to cost, who's going to do it, and how I'm going to deliver it. I'll also think about what partnerships I need to bring in, or potential suppliers. And then looking at things like my quality assurance and compliance, what's that going to look like? How many outputs do need to be achieved for this particular activity? What might set us apart in terms of the way that we're going to work with the organization? Have we got any added value that we can bring above and beyond what's being requested? And also, you know, using those pre-prepared stock answers to make sure that you can tweak them each time, but you've got the opportunity to get across the way that you work, what your methodologies are, etc. In the bid questions themselves, obviously there's normally some standard information they'll request of you about the organisation. There might be some technical questions they'll ask you to respond to in terms of the actual specific opportunity. And then there's normally a price and schedule that you've got to complete as well. They normally ask for experience, so think about in advance of 2 or 3 case studies and start building those up with things like customer quotes, outcomes from previous works, things that have been delivered on time to budget, etc., and start building some of those examples up so you've got not just a referee but also a kind of a case to describe exactly what was delivered previously, previous examples of the work that you've done, because that will all build trust and assurance. And a lot of the time now, the tender questions actually specifically ask you to give 2 or 3 examples of previous work. Sometimes it's at the pre-qualification stage, sometimes it's at the full tender stage. I think the other thing to think about is your tone of voice. So if, for example, you really don't feel that the outputs that are being required from this specification are achievable, or you're not able to deliver those, then make sure that you get across what it is that you can do. It doesn't mean to say you don't bid. You could decide, actually, we're going to have a punt on this one. We're going to put a bid forward, but we genuinely believe we can do a better job than a actually our time frame would look like this, or our delivery model would look slightly differently. Sometimes procurement managers are looking for different ideas, so don't be afraid to put across your own methodologies, but do make sure you answer the question at the same time. Bringing your tone of voice and bringing your brand into the questions is really important, so that they can understand what it would be like to work with you and what your organisation stands for. And yeah, I think for me, I'll come on to a little bit in a minute about how you can do some sort of groundwork around that, but really be clear about what it is that you're standing for and what it is you're saying that your value proposition, what's your unique selling points, and what is your value proposition as a supplier. The other thing I tend to do is a quick peer review before I submit. Sometimes you're right in amongst it when you're writing your submission and you just can't see the wood for the trees. It's really helpful to have somebody separately review your submission and your potential responses to your questions, not just for things like proofreading and formatting, spelling errors and things like that, but just to see if it generally makes sense. Because sometimes when a procurement manager is reading it, if it doesn't make sense straight away, they'll just move on to not score it particularly well, move on to the next question. So is it easy to digest? Does it make sense? Etc. So it's really helpful sometimes to just have a peer review, and that doesn't have to be somebody who's a procurement expert. It can just be one of your colleagues, or even a trusted supplier or trusted customer that you already work with, if you're a smaller organisation. When it comes to your experience, the one thing that we always try to get across at our bids is not just what you would do. Make sure you give examples of what you have done, because again, that helps build your confidence and trust with the procurement organisation. And you can also back that up with statistics or actual quotes and information. So don't just say we would do this. Say based on our experience of having done X, this means we are able to achieve your specification, or we're able to achieve the things that you're asking for, because we can demonstrate that we've done this before. Also, try and be really specific. So if there's a question about how you would deliver something, think about how many of the things, what the thing would look like, etc. Try and put as much detail and specificity in as possible, because again, that'll help build trust. And really try and showcase your governance, your risk management, your team, all the things that you think are going to put you in really, really good stead. And I've already mentioned if you've got testimonials and case studies. So I'll not go through all of the what not to do slide, but it's just think about it as all of the opposites to those things. So for example, when you're writing response, don't ramble, don't answer questions sort of systematically. Make sure that actually you're really thinking about the question that's being asked and tailoring it to that response. Don't ignore things like word counts, etc., because the procurement teams put these rules in place for a reason, and they don't want to receive bids that are over word count, don't make sense, have errors, or late, or also, for example, have lots and lots of annexes with pretty pictures and sales brochures all about the organisation. Just try and be specific to what it is that they're asking for, and listen to what the specification says. So I'll not go through more on the what not to do, but we will share the slides, and I think most of that is pretty self-explanatory. On the groundwork, Andy mentioned before, Find a Tender portal. There are lots of other ones as well. So go on. Most of these are free to register for. So put in the groundwork to get on all of those. Set up your searches and your notifications correctly. As and when you introduce new products or services within your organisation, remember to go back to these portals and update your search terms or the opportunity notification sort of criteria that you've put in the first place, so that you can continue to receive ones that might be relevant for you. And you can refine that over time as and when you get a bit more mature with how you're managing the opportunities. And if you're unsure of what portals to sign up to, go and ask the buyers or the organisations that you're wanting to supply services to what portals that they use. Really important is building your brand and your reputation through all of the other things that you do aside from just submitting that tender. A lot of the time, what's on your website, what's on your LinkedIn, things like your email signatures, how you're building this brand and reputation of what it's like to work with you is really, really important. So if you're about to submit a tender opportunity, make sure your website's up to date. And that you don't get 404 messages on it, for example. Make sure that you've got some really relevant content on your LinkedIn profile of the key team members that are going to be delivering against this activity to try and demonstrate their skills and their experience, for example. Whilst they'll score the responses based on the tender response alone, a lot of the time organisations will go off and sense check, certainly at sort of reference stage suppliers. So they'll have a look at the website, for example. They'll try and understand what it is about this organisation. Have they actually done the things that they've said they've done within the tender response, just to do a little bit of due diligence. So it's really important that you're building your brand and your reputation through marketing and through your content. And also so that you can start to reach out and build these relationships well in advance of the opportunities coming out. So if you know that you want to be in, for example, the huge opportunity that Stansted have got through their transformation projects, and you can see some real opportunities throughout now all the way through to March 2027. While you're waiting for potential opportunities to come out through those other phases, what is it that you can do to build your reputation with Stansted and its supply chain? What networking events can you get to? Who can you connect with on LinkedIn? Who can you start to build those relationships with? So very much around putting in the groundwork to make sure people are aware of you and what it is you do. So when you do bump into somebody or you do respond to an opportunity, they already know who you are. They've already got a sense of your organisation. Establish your processes and your materials. We've talked about this already in advance where you can, and undertake research on your customers, your competitors, and any of the procurement requirements and standards that you might have to adhere to. So you already know that Stansted are really keen on sustainability, and Andy mentioned before around the partner that they're working with. So again, how can you make sure that you're best prepared to respond to opportunities by working with that partner and understanding what the sustainability opportunities and requirements are going to be, and lastly, kind of upskill your team around all of that. So just to finish on differentiating yourself in the crowd, understand the customer and the brief. Make sure you score well on the questions. You can use some AI tools to help you structure your responses, but don't rely on AI tools to actually write your responses. So for example, you could put in an AI tool, I want to reduce my 1,000 words to 750. Please do that for me. But make sure you sense check everything. Make sure that you're really kind of making sure that it still all makes sense, etc. So don't rely on them, but you could use it to try and help you structure your questions better. Make sure you're evidencing the experience of your team. And then also make sure you're evidencing your environmental, social, and governance credentials. So talk about what you're doing in your organisation, what policies you've got, how you're addressing those things. If you do have accreditations or professional memberships, it's always good to try and weave those in as well. Again, it just builds confidence. And then if you do have any compliance or quality standards, such as things like Cyber Essentials or Cyber Essentials Plus or ISO, then again, try and weave those things in, because again, it builds a sense of this organization's responsible, they have got some good practices in place, and these accreditations can prove that. Okay. Well, we'll leave it there for now. I'm conscious I've gone through quite a lot, but I did say in the discussion forum before that we'll also provide access to the UMI SatNav platform, which has lots of tools and resources in for you. So you'll be able to kind of go on there and have a look at some of the tools and resources that are available. And please do obviously reach out if there's anything that you want to discuss or you've got any questions. Hopefully we might be able to have time to answer a few of them now. If not, then obviously the team will also be at the Meet the Buyer. So we'll look forward to seeing some of you at the Meet the Buyer.
Great, thanks, Susie. That was there's a lot to take in, but it's really important information. So we will share the slides, and there'll be a recording of this session that'll be shared as well. So hopefully everyone will have a good chance to review all that. There aren't any questions in the Q&A, so we'll move on. So we'll only be about 10 more minutes now, everyone, so not too much longer to go. But I'm going to just go through a few slides, talk about Meet the Buyers, what it is, how it works, and how you can make the most of your time with us at the event if you are registered to attend. And if you're not already registered, hopefully this will give you a bit of an idea about what to expect if you do come along. There are still some tickets available. We've got about 110 registered so far. I think our capacity is about 130, so there is an opportunity to register, but the spaces are limited. So what is Meet the Buyers? So Meet the Buyers essentially is an opportunity for local SMEs to connect directly with major buyers. And those buyers might be directly with MAG Group themselves or with their tier 1 and possibly tier 2 suppliers. Since 2011, the event has generated over 36 million in new contracts for local businesses, which is fantastic. It delivers year on year. And 2011, 13 years ago, but we haven't had 13 Meet the Buyers. We did have 2 years without one due to COVID. So it really delivers results. So if you do want to be part of that event, make sure you do register today and you don't miss out. We've got 27 buyers attending the event. So this is the logos of everyone who's going to be there. You can see Fado on there, who we know the tier 1 contractor for the transformation project. But there's a lot of other big brands on there that you'll recognise who are supplying into the airport on other existing projects, who might be tier 2 suppliers, supplying into Fado directly, as well as some local public sector and private sector buyers who might not be directly connected to the airport, but have got some good opportunities for local businesses. So there's such a wide range of opportunities that we do encourage you not to miss out on it. What are they buying? They're buying a wide range of things. We probably group them together under these headings, but it is so much more. If you visit our website, I believe the buyer catalogue may be on there already. So you can see each buyer, what they're looking for, and in some cases, some specifics around their projects and their spend. But no matter what you do, there will be buyers who are suitable for you at Meet the Buyers. And if you did register, and when it comes to select which buyers you want to meet with, if you find that there aren't any relevant buyers, we will, of course, refund you your ticket. But we are sure that most supply companies in the local area will have some opportunity at Meet the Buyers. So I'm going to go through a little bit about how it works first, it's kind of technically. So you review the buyer's requirements. So the buyers, we've spent the last couple of months working with these buyers, trying to understand what exactly it is that they're looking for. So we've got the buyer's requirements from them now, and we will be sending those to you very shortly, and that'll be on Monday the 11th. So when you get those requirements, you do need to come back to us and let us know which buyers you want to meet. It will be through an online portal, very easy to do. You must let us know by close of play Monday, the 18th of November, who it is that you would like to meet at the event. Once you've given us your preferences in terms of who you want to meet with, we will then go away, do some matching, and set those appointments up. So you'll be given a pre-scheduled appointment list, and that appointment list will be list the buyers that you're going to meet and what time you're going to meet them. So you can be really well planned for your day. You'll know exactly who you're going to meet, when you're going to meet them, what order you're going to meet them in. And obviously it gives you a good chunk of time to do some extra research on the buyers as well. All the appointments on the day last 10 minutes. They will be signified by a kind of a bell noise every 10 minutes, which will go off. When that bell rings, it means that your appointment's over and it's time to move on. Please don't overrun on your appointments. If you overrun, it eats into the next person's time, and we need to be respectful of each other. I'm sure you wouldn't want to have your 10 minutes reduced. So please, when the bell rings, say your thank yous, your goodbyes, and move on to your next appointment. The buyers will all be in their own stands. They'll be in a static position, so you won't have to spend a lot of time trying to find them. They'll be in the same spot all day, so you can familiarize yourself with their location in advance. You don't need to bring anything with you. You just need to come at your set meeting time. You can bring flyers and samples or information packs. They're encouraged, but they're not essential. Your refreshments and lunch will be provided for you throughout the day. So you don't need to worry about having to go out and get lunch or keeping topped up with your teas and coffees. They will be available. The event will open at 9 a.m. You don't have to be there all day. If your first appointment is at 1 p.m., you could just join us at lunchtime and spend the rest of the day with us. But if you do want to spend the whole day and do lots of networking, then we're delighted for you to do so. So the event will run from 9 a.m. and that'll run through till about 4 p.m. We encourage you to do everything you can to make the most of your meetings. They are only 10 minutes. So do your preparation, research the buyers that you're going to be meeting or any other buyers that you're planning on trying to meet on the day that you might not already have an appointment with. Understand what their live projects are, what their requirements might be, do as much research into them as you can. Practice your intro pitch. Can you give a good overview of your business in 30 to 60 seconds? It's, what's more commonly referred to as an elevator pitch. So make sure you practice that, because you have got a limited time. And if you spend too much time talking, it's going to really take over the meeting. You should be spending time listening as well. So ask some questions and listen to the buyer's responses and understand. You need to understand what their needs are before you can understand how you can solve those needs for them. So spending 10 minutes just talking about you and what you do probably isn't the best route. Ask the questions, what issues do the buyers have in the supply chains? What new innovations are they looking for, etc. Make sure you try and agree some follow-up actions before your meeting ends. It doesn't have to be detailed. You do only have 10 minutes, so you're not going to have time to be detailed with that. But please try and agree follow-up actions. That might be, I'll connect with you on LinkedIn or I'll send you an email. But try and get some kind of follow-up agreed. Send your LinkedIn connection immediately and summarize your discussion. I met you at Meet the Buyers. We discussed this service, etc., etc. And that'll stick in the buyer's mind. That will make you stand out. So make sure you send those requests quite quickly. And doing it quickly will also mean that you have a fresh memory of what your discussion was. And keep your promises. If you say you're going to follow up, make sure you do follow up. A broken promise at this stage isn't going to look good in the long run, because if a buyer can't trust you to follow up with an email like you said you're going to send, how can they trust you to follow up and deliver a contract for them? So please make sure that you keep your promises that you make on the day. There will be an event app. A link will be sent to everyone to download the event app. The event app's a really powerful tool for you to use. We recommend everyone downloads it. It's completely free of charge. It'll include your personalized appointment diary on there, so you don't need to have a piece of paper with you at all times reminding you where you need to be and when. It'll have the agenda for the day. It'll have all the break times, the lunch times, all the agenda items that are taking place, because there will be workshops running that day as well. It's got a networking and a meeting hub, so you can connect with other attendees. It's not only the buyers who offer you an opportunity at Meet the Buyers, it's the other 130 local SMEs. There's collaboration opportunities. There's chances for you to sell to other supply companies. So make sure you're on there. Connect with people you think will be useful to connect with. If you talk to someone, send them a connection request on the meeting hub. And there's going to be notes pages as well on the app, where you can take detailed notes on all aspects of your event experience. So please make sure you download the app when that comes through. It's completely free of charge. It's on Apple, it's on Android, and there's also a web app available for anyone who can't download from the app stores as well. And then we just say make the most of your day. Attend one of the seminars that will be taking place. We're going to have seminars. One of them Andy alluded to earlier, which is around working with the airport. There'll be another session which is aimed at helping businesses be ready for finance and funding and investment, and trying to find the best finance and funding available for your business. Speak to our exhibitors. We will have exhibitors at the event, and we'll have some sponsors you can see across the bottom of the slide deck. We've got Areas and Nationwide Platforms who are both sponsoring this event, so please speak to them, make their day worthwhile. We'll have around, I think it's over 10 exhibitors at the event in addition to the buyers, and it will be great for you to chat with them and do some networking, speak to the other local SMEs, and make sure you make the most of your time with us at the event. So if you haven't already registered, you can do at stanstedmeetthebuyer.co.uk. That's stanstedmtb.co.uk. The event's on the 20th of November, so it's coming around pretty soon, 3 weeks tomorrow. So please register if you haven't done already. And that's the end of everything I've got to say, but I am going to check for any questions. So let's have a look. We've got one question here. How many buyers would be assigned to a seller? So when you make your requests, we would aim to put about 6 pre-arranged meetings in the diary for you. That can fluctuate, depends on the popularity of the buyers you're looking to meet with. But we do always say you will have an opportunity to book more meetings on the day. We will have an appointment desk where you can speak to some of our team. Our team will be constantly monitoring any dropouts, any cancellations, any empty slots, and you can request additional appointments on the day. It's not uncommon for people to come to meet the buyers and meet with 10, 12, 13 buyers in one day. We've known people meet with a lot more. If you can be with us for the day and be patient and keep speaking to our team and see what we can arrange, we can normally find some slots for you with buyers. So that's that question. Let's see what we've got in the discussion forum. I think that's it. So any other questions, please let us know. You can email in on the email address that you've used for the communications for this pre-event briefing. I hope it's been really useful for everyone. And please contact Carly. I think she's probably been your main contact with any questions at all. You can connect with me. I had a QR code up on screen earlier, but you can search for Paul Clark on LinkedIn. Please connect with me. If you've got any questions, please let us know. But thank you very much, everyone. And I hope you have a great day. And I hope we see you all at Meet the Buyers.